You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. Oh, I love June. It's hot, it's dry, it just feels good. I don't know, some of you think I'm crazy, but I like warmth. I like sunshine. I like to be out there and take in the sun rays, get rid of that vitamin D. I just want to take in the sun. And a lot of your plants are like that this time of year as well. And so your crepe myrtles and your rose of Sharons and your hibiscus, there's smoke bush are in full bloom right now at the garden center. We've got Elaeagnus, which is a great native plant. Cotoneasters, again, another native hardcore plant. Sumacs are starting to show up, including the staghorn sumac, which looks like a mountain palm tree. You know, palms don't grow that well up here. They don't grow up here. But sumacs do. And there's a tall one that has this ferny looking frond to it that's just stunning and super drought hardy, and animals don't eat those. And so I really wanted to cover with you this segment is lavender. This is the time when you want to put your lavenders in. You're very tall, the bigger, shrubbier herbs. So lavender is a nice silver foliage. It can be blue. There is a variety that's green. Your fern leaf lavender is more green. They all have typically a blue to purple flower, although there are some pink and some white varieties, which are quite striking, quite interesting. But there are 5 basic types of lavender. I thought I'd mention the 5 just so you know, and they all grow up here. They all do exceptionally well. They'll like bright sun. They'll like it dry. In fact, the only way to really kill a lavender is if you water it. They do not like to be overwatered. Put it in the gardens and treat it like you would a rose bush or a tree or a shrub. Don't treat it like your tomatoes or your peppers or your vegetable garden. Treat it more like a peony or a bigger shrub, and it will thrive. Some of my most beautiful lavenders are in containers, big ceramic pots, because they're evergreen. So even in midwinter, they're not blooming, but the foliage is quite striking. And so they look handsome anytime, any month. But right now they are in full bloom. And so the 5 different varieties, probably the most famous because it's the hardiest. It's also one of the biggest. And so English lavender, it has a tall, wispy flower, great kind of silver foliage, a mounding plant up to, knee high, maybe just a touch bigger, but it gets wider, so 4 or 5 feet round. Great landscape plant. So it gets you nice filler. You could put it right there in a rock lawn, and it just still loves the radiant heat. Put it up against a wall, let the sun on the south side just bake it, and it just is happier. It will bloom better. And the reason it's got that silver or blue foliage is it coats the foliage in this fuzz, this material that keeps it from perspiring, keeps the sun off the foliage. So it's very thrifty on how it uses water, yet it blooms like crazy. And all lavender have that fantastic fragrance. They're actually good at repelling insects like mosquitoes, flies, things that, they just repel things off the patio. So that's why I like to put them in containers off of my decks and patios. They take that heat, reflective heat, and in the evening, I'll kind of hose them off, a little bit of mist of water. That fragrance fills up the patio area. All my guests kind of go, "Oh, you're such a gardener. It smells so good back here." And all the flies go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this to us again." They just leave the area. It's a great plant for that. So English lavender, the reason it's a landscape plant is because it takes on the cold. It's the roughest, most tumblest, the most dynamic of all the lavenders because they're just so robust. But they're not the prettiest because they're so large. It's hard to take in that beauty. The smaller they get, the more petite they get, they look cuter. You can just capture in a picture and put them on the front of Instagram, and they just go, oh, look at that, a lavender. And so in that respect, Spanish lavender is more popular. I wouldn't say it's better. It doesn't bloom quite as long. It's smaller. It's tough, but it has that more pom-pommed looking, bigger flower, shorter flower to it. Same foliage, but it gets tighter, more condensed. So maybe it's half the size. Maybe it gets up below knee high, 12 to 18 inches by 12 to 18 inches. Nice little mound to it. Looks great in perennial gardens. Butterflies love it. It's a great little plant. And when it loads up with flowers in the spring, it just is magnificent. So in that respect, it's a little bit more Mediterranean, this Spanish lavender, as opposed to English lavender, which is a colder climate. So that's a Spanish variety. Still tough. They both grow well. In fact, they would look good together. Put an English in the back of the garden, put a Spanish towards the front, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a garden, a lavender garden. You can collect lavenders like that. French lavender, go down the Mediterranean a little bit further. French lavenders, those are the ones you make potpourri out of. They've got thicker, chubbier foliage to them. They have more oils. And so that's the one they typically will get bunches of them and put them in bundles, put them in your closet. They repel moths and that kind of stuff. Actually, all lavender does that. But French lavender is most famous for that. It's also the wimpiest. Nothing against my French friends. They're just not as hardy as the Spanish or as the English varieties. So if you get a real cold winter, or if you're at a higher elevation, your Groom Creek or Highland Pines or Williams or these areas, you want to definitely go with the English varieties. As you come down in altitude, you can introduce more Spanish. And as you go down towards, let's say Humboldt, Dewey, Cordes Junction, those areas, you're down the hill towards Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Sedona, French is great for you because you don't get quite as cold. And so they'll be more perennial. So it just depends on which ones. But if you want that potpourri, go for the French. Then we've got sweet lavender. It's very much like the English lavender, but it's pretty much the same. The scent is more musty flavor to it. It just has a different kind of flower. Same purpley, but it kind of waves in the wind, but it has a sweeter, mustier, it's hard to describe. But there is a definite sweet lavender variety. And then fern leaf lavender. This is it's got greener foliage. It's bigger. It gets real tall. In fact, many of your fields of lavenders are going to be the fern leaf because they get much larger. Big, long flowers, great fragrance, and the foliage has this fern looking. It's very different looking. Same fragrance, but different look to it. So if you like textures and patterns, that's the kind of lavender you go with. You just need bigger ones. So the big ones are going to be fern leaf lavender, then English lavender, then sweet lavender, going down to Spanish lavender, and then finally French lavender is the smallest, cutest of them all. And they come in different colors, each of them. This is a great time to be planting lavender in your gardens. If you just want fragrance, if you have a hole in the garden, those cosmos finally gave up. You're going, oh man, I'm tired of those ratty things blowing over the wind. Lavender, they're your ones. And the beauty with lavender, animals don't bother them. So rabbits and deer and javelina and antelope, they don't have no interest in that fragrance. In fact, it repels them. They don't like it. Yet butterflies, hummingbirds, bees, they're truly a hardcore pollinator kind of herb. So herbs are really good here in the mountains of Arizona. The reason being, it's cool at night, very bright during the day, which they love, and it's dry. Herbs love dry climates, so they're less likely to melt down. So you've had problems with your thymes, your oreganos, the basils in the past, other areas which are humid. They'll tend to grow up and flop over, and they get black spots, and they just have issues. Here, we don't have any of that. And most of our herbs are true perennials. They come back year after year. And not all of them. Okay, fennels maybe a little off. Basil, definitely, it can come back by seed. It's not going to come back from the actual roots. It's a good, strong grower. It's not a true defined perennial, but all the mints, they're all perennial. They're tough as nails and great plants for the yard. in your yard. Okay, that's it for this segment. We got a lot in store for you, but we have Lisa Waters Lain coming in with your garden question.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Waters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Waters all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
For a more fruitful garden, increased success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Waters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.